And so that's it for the newspaper. All right, on a little parting thing, this racism thing keeps popping up on my radar on YouTube over and over and over again. I think Jeff thought it would be funny, aka Nigel Cromwell, to send me a video. David Duke, what was it titled? David Duke for president? Question mark. It's up to you. David Duke compares himself to Senator Byrd, because Byrd was a former KK member. But what I've seen with Senator Byrd is he truly apologized. Not like David Duke. Oh, he says, I just left them because I approved of their violence. I didn't approve of their violence. But he still, I think he holds the same tenets. Because he's, the new thing is to say, I don't like Zionists, but I'm okay with Jews. For most of these, no. They hate all Jews because of guilt by association. At least that's my opinion. So in it, I couldn't sit through the whole David Duke thing. I think it goes on for 13 minutes. And he's basically, there's one statement that just stuck out like a red flag. And if this is supposed to be a learned man, a scholar, he puts doctor in front of his name, Dr. David Duke. And as writers and speakers well know, and even mathematicians who, in word problems, language, the English language has, because we have so many words for so many different things, the English language is one of the most precise languages. You look at the unabridged Oxford Dictionary, there's a lot of friggin' words in that. I remember the old book style, it would take up a shelf like an encyclopedia. So choosing one's words, and I assume David Duke wrote down what he was going to say and was reading from a teleprompter. I'm assuming that because it has this flow like it would. And early on in the video, he makes this statement. He says, as president, I'll give you better government than you deserve. Listen to that statement. I'll give you better government than you deserve. He didn't say, I'll give you the government that you deserve. I'll give you a better government because that's what you deserve. You folks deserve a better government. That's what I'm going to give you. No, he said, I'll give you a better government than you deserve. What does that say about him? That he has absolute contempt for the American people in general. Absolute contempt. I'm going to give you this even though you don't deserve it. This guy doesn't have a chance in hell of becoming president. Because thankfully, even though we have the Tea Party and the Republican Party and all that, Americans are essentially, what's the word? Stupid. Actually, I'm optimistic about humans. I try my best to see the good side, but I know, humans can be awful bad. It's almost hard to, if you do the categories, there's probably the bad, but still, I think I have faith in the average American, and it usually is. The average American is pretty sensible, and they can see right away. They can read between the lines. They can see the hate. This notion of white supremacy. Like I've said before, you can have German pride. You can have Italian pride. You could have Swedish pride. You could have Dutch pride. But when you say white pride, that sends a completely different message. And a lot of times in the white pride, they're not including Jews. Even though European Jews are pretty white. Oh man, all this Jew bashing. I'm well aware growing up during, with the civil rights movement on television all the time, the prejudice against blacks in this country. But I never encountered anti-Semitism till I was very, very late in my teens. And because you don't see it very much in Southern California, at least not in San Diego. Maybe because we don't have a big Jewish community here. But My friend, his grandfather, who came from the East Coast, who must have lived someplace where there was a lot of Jews, I remember being at his house and he just started going off on the Galdern Jews. And that's, I'm paraphrasing. And I was like, whoa, it still exists. I would have thought after World War II and what they saw with the atrocities, and Holocaust deniers, don't get me started. And the very fact that there's these neo-Nazis that call themselves good Americans, but we had men fight and die in Europe, fighting the Germans. And yet they goose step and they wear like German style uniforms and they celebrate Hitler's birthday. In other countries they'd be put in prison. But we have freedom of speech and everything. And the ACLU has come to their defense, their right to speak out into March. Oh, what a crazy thing. Dr. Laura Schlesinger, there was a incident with her where a woman called in who was African American, who was married to a white man, and she was asking for advice because when her husband has relatives that are obviously racist and he has racist friends, and when they make these veiled comments to her, he doesn't come to her defense. And Dr. Laura was telling her she's just overly sensitive. And she said, blacks can say the N-word all the time. You see it on all these programs, on TV. And why can't whites say it? And she proceeds to go N-word, 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 to make her point. Which is like, if it's offensive to somebody, why say it? That's just plain and simple. Sure, you have the right to say it. You do. You just have the right to be an asshole. Is basically what we're protected by. Maybe we need a new constitutional amendment. You don't have the right to be an asshole. All right, everybody. Have a great week. I'll see you on next Fez. Okay? Cheers.